Hi, everyone. I'm so excited that you guys could join us for Ask Evelyn Live on Wednesdays. This is episode 20. I cannot believe it. We've got some really good questions for you today, and I'm super excited that you guys could join us. So at Ask Evelyn, we answer your questions about garbage, recycling, compost, and other trashy topics. And I'm Becca Fong, and I am the residential solid waste outreach planner. So I'm the person that sends you your recycling guidelines and helps answer your questions. A really special thing for you. We have a special guest this week. Pat is out, and I have a awesome co-host that's going to join us here in just a minute. So here she is. So before we get started, I introduce her. I just want to give you guys a quick reminder that this show runs on your questions. So please, you can either put them.
We cut out there for a second, Becca. What was that?
Oh, I'm just telling people to send us their questions. So
perfect.
Just reminding them that this show is powered by their questions and their comments. So put them in either the comments on this feed, send them to us through our social media feeds, Facebook, Twitter, or of course, Instagram. And of course, you can also email us, which is how this all started, at askevelyn@seattle.gov. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to my lovely co-host this week, Miss Angela Wallace. Angela, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. I'm Angela Wallace. I am most excited to be here with my favorite colleague, Becca Fong. And what I do at SPU is help make sure that the green and white trucks from Recology and Waste Management make it around to your house and actually pick up your materials, get them, of course, in the right truck and down to the right place for disposal or recycling or composting. It actually takes a lot of work from a lot of staff members at our city to make sure that you can have that lovely, convenient, almost perfect curbside pickup.
Totally. I always like to think about, Angela, you as the person that is behind the scenes kind of making it all happen. You're like the magic that makes all of the like seamless actions like take place. All the stuff that goes in my cart, it just magically goes away and goes to the right places, and everybody's taken care of because of a lot of the hard work that you do. And of course, a lot of other things, but that's
a lot of people. Yeah. A lot of people.
Totally. But you're the hub. I mean, that's super, super helpful. So just to run down our show is that every week we answer 2 questions from our listeners. We've got 2 really great questions this week, and one of them is just perfect for Angela to be on the show. She's got some great knowledge about it. And then also to give you updates on our weekly waste challenge. And as you guys know, we're celebrating the bounty of summer this month. So we will check in with you guys about how our challenge went last week. And so Angela hopped on the challenge with us, and we will introduce the challenge topic for next week. So, all right, without further ado, question 1. Oh, actually, before we get into question 1, we had a follow-up from Miriam from our question last week about what to do with an extra broken vacuum. So she said that she's got a broken vacuum and she's in an apartment. And so she wanted to know if it was okay to put it into the dumpster instead of just putting it next to the dumpster. And Miriam, absolutely, if it fits in the dumpster, please go ahead and do that. It needs to fit with the lid closed. As far as putting out extra stuff next to your dumpster in an apartment, you always want to check in with your property manager first, right? Because there is nothing that populates more random stuff being dumped next to a dumpster like the first item being set next to it. But yes, you can put it in your dumpster as long as there's room. So thank you for following up, and thanks for watching, Miriam. We appreciate that. All right, so to question 1. So this comes from Michelle. She says, "Dear Evelyn, I have 2 computers with monitors and keyboards to get rid of. What are my options? Do I need to erase the information on the computers before I get rid of them?" That's a really good question, and I have to say that I brought a little prop. Like, how old is this thing, right? Like, I've got like piles of computers at my house. It's a little embarrassing, but you know, since I've been home and looking at every little corner of my house and figuring out where I need to clear some space, you hold on to these things because, yes, like Michelle said, you want to know what to do with them, and you know, what should I do with the information still on them? Though I don't think anybody can actually access anything on this. But so we have a couple of options. One is we can pick it up at your house, which is probably the easiest, through the special item pickup. So Angela, you can kind of tell us a little bit more. We have an electronics category.
We do. So you can put a few electronic items for a $20 fee in a small box, about 2 feet by 2 feet by 2 feet. We're not going to be super particular about that, but a small box, a small Amazon size box, put those electronic items in. But get online first and say, hey, Seattle, I want a special pickup. And then we'll send you an email confirmation saying, yep, we got that. Here's what day you set it out. And you set it there, and a different truck will come around and get it. So it doesn't go in the garbage truck or the recycle truck. It goes into a special collections truck typically, or sometimes on the side of a recycle truck.
Okay.
But not in the main hopper.
Cool. And then what happens to it after that? After the special item truck comes to pick it up, what happens to the electronic items?
So here in Washington State, we have the e-cycle program, which means that we have a great chain of command about what happens to our electronics. And so we have a couple of vendors that are certified internationally to be able to appropriately handle and recycle their electronics. So some of those are interconnection, re-PC, and actually you could use those for your personal drop-offs as well.
Cool. I mean, I think that's a really good point with a lot of the special item pickups. So you go to seattle.gov/special items, and you'll be able to see all the stuff we pick up. But for electronics, it's good to know that a lot of that stuff that you put out for us to pick up through that special item program gets recycled. So I definitely wanted to talk about re-PC and interconnection. So if you want to go and drop stuff off yourself, which is free, instead of paying for the special item fee, which is totally convenient, you don't have to go anywhere. But if you are so inclined, there are lots of places, like on the website you mentioned for eCycle Washington. There are some great vendors there that you can look at. Two that I personally have used before are re-PC, and they're down in Soto on 6th Avenue. And they are open Monday through Saturday for drop off between 10 and 7, which is great. Those are their hours during COVID. And Interconnection, which is on 35th and Stone Way, right near the North Transfer Station in kind of like Wallingford, Fremont area. And they are only open Fridays from 12 to 4.
And they're a nonprofit, which is really cool to support the nonprofit work that's going on to responsibly recycle.
Absolutely. And I think what's great is that I looked at both of their sites, and RePC suggested that you actually wipe the information. For the second part of your question, Michelle, to wipe the information, you can download kind of essentially a utility that erases the information. Interconnection on their website said that they actually do scrub the data, so that may factor into how you want to get rid of your stuff. The other great thing I like about both RePC and Interconnection is that if they can, they will, probably not this baby, but newer stuff, they will refurbish it. Like you were saying, they're great organizations where they will refurbish them and resell them at super affordable prices, or maybe even donate them to folks in need. So those are really good options. So special item pickup, seattle.gov/special items, electronics pickup, $20, 2x2x2. Small Amazon box is a good way to think about it, Angela?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Or you can drop it off. So, and we will have the links to eCycle Washington and the special item collection pickup scheduling in our show notes. So, and also a little bit of information about product stewardship that Angela shared a little bit in this question and answer. So we're going to move on to question 2. So Angela, you're going to take this one away.
Great. So Daryl wrote to us and he asked or said, I have about 20 cans of paint in my garage that I need to get rid of. He's got a mix of oil-based and latex and deck stain and all the stuff that goes with painting and dealing with your house. He says, what can I do with all that? So the first thing for latex paint is that it can still oftentimes be used. So it can be dropped off here in Seattle at a variety of locations. And some of those are Ballard reuse up in the Ballard neighborhood, second use on 6th Avenue South, Maple Leaf Ace Hardware. So they will take your cans of latex paint. Each store will have its limitations on how many at a time. There'll be a small fee, most likely. And then those latex paints can often get reused. And locally, they get reused by a company called Green Sheen. So cool. Green Sheen Partners, yeah, they are a fairly local, semi-local group that partners with all those stores to take back that paint and make it into some standard great paint colors that are perfectly appropriate for any project inside your house, etc.
Awesome. So, and there's kind of an update that's happening, right, with latex paint in particular in the coming year.
Yeah, so as I mentioned, Rebecca mentioned, we have something great in Washington State, and it's actually really popular internationally, called product stewardship. And what that means is that the manufacturers of the stuff that we buy play a role in making sure that it gets responsibly disposed of and recycled. And so we have that law being enacted in Washington State in spring 2021.
Yes.
And what that means, I know, woohoo! And it took us 8 years. So it took 8 hard years of work from hundreds of people in our state to make this legislation happen that brings paint manufacturers in upfront to be responsible for end of life of the paint. And so what that means is that everyone, when they buy a gallon of paint, quart of paint, in Washington State next year, will pay an upfront fee, a small fee on that gallon of paint, and that goes toward helping us gather the paint back and recycle it and reuse it. And so next year, you'll be able to get rid of all your latex paint for free, and some of the other paint categories will be covered as well. But stay tuned for more about that program next spring as it comes out and becomes live.
Awesome. And we'll have some links to both Green Sheen Paint and also a couple locations you can drop off, and then also Paint Care, which is awesome. I mean, we've talked about, you know, extended producer responsibility, or EPR, before on the show, but absolutely. I mean, if I'm a manufacturer of paint, like, I should be responsible for the whole cycle of what happens with that product, right? It's not just selling it to people. It's like, I need to be responsible for what happens when the rest of that product is not used or the end of life. So that is awesome. That is a lot of hard work. We do it kind of industry by industry here in Washington. We've talked a lot about light bulbs. They have a similar system in place, which is why you can take light bulbs back. But that's awesome news. I'm so excited. 2021. So not too far away. So
yeah, pretty soon.
Awesome. And actually, I had to, when this question came in, I totally had to look, because, you know, I'm feeling for Daryl, because my garage has, you know, the shelf of like random paint, right? Like, who else out there has got this shelf going on here? You've got some oil-based paint. I got some stain. Exactly. See, everybody can like generally grab some random like amount of paint that you have left over. And it's great for touch-ups, but like realistically, like, y'all saw my pile. Like, I'm never going to use that, right? And so it's great to have some options for the latex. Daryl also has some oil-based paint and then some stain. So like, you know, look at this thing. Yikes, I don't know how long that's been in my garage. But so oil-based and stain products can go to household hazardous waste for free. And in Seattle, we have 2 locations. We have the North Household Hazardous Waste location, which is on about 125th and Stoneway. And then the second one is across the street from the South Transfer Station, right on South Kenyon Street. So those are both great locations. We will take oil-based paint and stain for free. It's for households only, you know, not for small businesses. The main thing that's important, and I have totally made this mistake, is that they are open on limited days. So up north, they're open Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. And in the South end, they're open Thursday, Friday, Saturday from 9:30 to 4:30. So you want to make sure. I have definitely made that mistake.
It's a weekend day. Yeah.
So,
very good.
So Daryl, you've got lots and lots of options. You know, you can take stuff back to the hardware store right now for a small fee, which is what, you know, Angela, you mentioned. And then, you know, if you can hang on to your paint for a little bit longer, EPR will kick in 2021 for the stain and the oil-based paints. Please go to our household hazardous waste locations. We will take that back and then recycle or dispose of it safely. But also, you can use it up. You can share it with something. Pat has, I think, shared on previous shows that he will use it to just like as a primer coat for a lot of products he's working on. So if that is still good. One final topic too is if you have a paint can with a tiny amount of latex paint in it, you can mix it with kitty litter and dry it out, and you can put it in your garbage can, and we will take that away. So
and here's the reason we don't want a lot of paint in a garbage can. So 1, it needs to be dried out with kitty litter, and 2, we don't want that paint going in your garbage can, which goes into the big truck, because that truck smashes everything.
Right.
That goes into it. And so can you imagine, you're like, this is a little tiny paint can, but man, that truck is going to smash it. Right. So all this pink paint, fuchsia, whatever this colors I thought I was going to use that I didn't ever use, all over the frickin' truck. So let's not put any liquid paint in our trucks.
Absolutely. That's a really good point.
We got people tuning in across the nation today, and that goes anywhere. That's common sense information for any paint user anywhere in our country or the world.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Things don't magically disappear when you put them in the garbage carts.
No.
So, but we will, so lots of great options, Daryl, and we'll put all information to all of the different programs and options that you have for disposing of the multitude of paint can products that probably looks like my shelf in the garage. in our show notes. So thanks for that awesome question. All right, so now we're at the point in our show where we talk about the weekly waste challenge. And every week we pick a new tip or trick to try out because trying stuff is hard and we really like to introduce some new concepts. It's always great for us to try it out, and we would love for you guys to share how you guys are doing on your weekly waste challenges as well. So with this being August, we are celebrating kind of the summer bounty. Whether you have your own garden or you're looking at just like the awesome amounts of produce in the store, or you're at a farmer's market, or your neighbor's a really awesome gardener and is sharing all that great stuff with you, sometimes that bounty can feel a little overwhelming. So last week's challenge was the most creative use of too much of one thing. So this kind of came up. My neighbor has an overabundance of zucchini, which nobody in my family is going to eat. And she sent out a text and was like, who wants zucchini? I'm like, is this a joke? Like, no, I don't want any of that. And as it turned out, some people wanted it. But one thing that's going really, really great in my garden is chard. I love chard because you can eat it cooked, you can eat it fresh. And let me tell you, my family is sick of eating chard. They are just like, I don't want any more. They're like, you cannot make this in any other way that is going to be palatable. Like, I've sauteed it, I've made it into massage salads, they're done. So, but I still have a lot of chard. So what I did was I made it into pesto. And so that's been pretty great. So I made we're gonna be eating chard pesto for a long time. But
it's good, right? You could freeze it. So
exactly, that's exactly what I did. So I made up a whole bunch of it. I made a frittata right away, just mixed it in with some eggs and made that for breakfast all last week. And then I just froze all of it. So we can eat that well into next year when everybody will have forgotten about an overabundance of chard. So that's kind of my one tip is with a lot of leafy greens, you can turn it into pesto. I've made arugula pesto. I've made chard pesto. Really any kind of green that will stand up to cooking will go great in a pesto. So I use sunflower seeds. You don't have to use anything fancy. I use sunflower seeds, miso paste, olive oil, and salt, and a couple of cloves of garlic. It was pretty simple. But we've also got lots of tips on the Love Food Stop Waste website. So we'll also link to that as well. So Angela, you joined us this week. What do you got?
So kale. In my previous household, we had a lot of kale, and what we would do with that is actually sneak a few pieces into our smoothies in the morning, and the kids wouldn't know any better. And it's really good for you, and it's dense nutrition, right? So you don't need a ton of kale. It does have a flavor, so you have to be accustomed to a little bit of that flavor, but putting it, just chopping a whole bunch off for the week, it keeps really well in the fridge. Lacinato kale, popping it in some smoothies is really good. I have a really tight neighborhood group. Facebook group, a couple hundred of us are on this Facebook group, and people are always handing out produce over the Facebook group. It's well traveled. Also, like you did, text chains, right, with your friends. I think if there's just a little bit of will, there's a way to find a home for that food.
Totally. No, I think that's a really good point. I mean, if you've got an overabundance of something, you never know who is really wanting some of that, right? And if you can share it locally, I feel like, especially during this time, it's always nice to be connected. But we're so distant now that like even those really small connections really mean a lot. So, and I always say that food tastes better when it's being shared. So, there's that too.
Agreed. I miss sharing food with you in our beautiful office on the 59th floor.
I know. Ooh, I'm totally going to try kale in the smoothies. We used to do that. I haven't done that in a while. We actually aren't growing kale, but my neighbors have a lot of kale. So we'll swap a lot of stuff. But Perfect. I love that fresh taste too. Like it does have a taste, but it tastes really, really fresh and crisp. So it's an awesome tip. I will also try to find a chard pesto recipe to put on our Pinterest page. So, you guys can check that out. All right, folks. Well, that's a show for this week. And thank you all so much for joining us. It is great. It really just makes this so much fun. It's great to, again, feel connected in any small way. And thank you guys so much. The show is totally powered by your comments and questions. So please, please, please keep them coming. Either questions about, where stuff goes, weekly waste challenge ideas. Really, we want to hear from you, whatever you got to say. So tune in next week, Wednesdays, 11:30, and we will be back for more trash talk. And I really thank you, Angela, so much for joining me this week. It is awesome to have you. It's great to see you. It's great to have your expertise here. Thank you so much.
Super fun, everyone. Keep fighting the good fight. And when in doubt, find out where your stuff can be recycled.
Absolutely. A good reminder. All right, folks, I'm Becca Fong. And remember, life's simpler with less stuff. And we'll see you next week. All right. Take care, guys.
Bye.